since day one, being a brand that was built off of credit cards and life savings, and that's it, everyone around us was like, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, are you sure you thought this through? Like, no, we haven't thought this through. Saturdays in general incorporated all these different ideas and elements of kind of community and culture and New York and surfing and coffee and just like style and fashion, all this different stuff. And we were like, what should we call it? And the first thing out of Colin's mouth was Saturdays. And we were like, sick, done.
All right. And this is Swell Season Surf Radio. I am your co-host, Tyler Brewer. My other co-host, Ben. Funny story. We had recorded an intro when we did the show with our guest, which is who you just heard, Morgan Collett of Saturdays. And I had forgotten to hit record. So I said I would make it up, and here I am making it up. So we have a great show. We get caught up with Morgan Collett of Saturdays. They are celebrating their 10-year anniversary. Really interesting, really fun conversation. I think you will really enjoy it. And, we have a couple upcoming events we want to announce. There's a holiday fundraiser and membership drive for the Surfrider Foundation in New York City on Wednesday, November 20th at 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. at the B Bar and Grill. That's 40th East 4th Street in New York. And they have a little private club room. Should be a lot of fun. They're trying to reach a goal of 1,000 chapter members, so please go support. And then on Thursday, November 21st, they're going to be having a gallery wall autumn slideshow at the Patagonia Bowery. This is going to be on the 21st. That's a Thursday at 7:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. at the Patagonia Bowery store. Go check it out. Should be some really fun images up and of the past swells that we've had from last October and potentially some surf coming up, so maybe some photos from that. And so anyway, we have a great show, so go listen to it. You can find Swell Season Surf Radio at wax.radio. That is our host station. Go give it a listen. So there's some other really fun shows on there. And, of course, you can find us on Instagram, Swell Season Surf. And, of course, follow us on iTunes, Spotify. Give us a like. Leave us a nice review. Hope you enjoy the show. If you don't, hey, give us some constructive criticism. We appreciate it. Anyway, we're going to let you enjoy the interview. And we'll see you soon. See you on down the line. You.
Thanks for having me here, guys.
No, so I mean, dude, it's been 10 years.
It's crazy.
Wild ride.
It feels a lot shorter than that.
Really?
Yeah. It's been crazy.
What did you, when you guys first got going, did you have any of these like, this is our first 5 years, this is going to be our first 10 years?
No. We didn't, like we all had different jobs and super stoked about the idea and just like went for it. And then it reached a point where we had to decide like we should quit our jobs if we're going to give this a solid go. And I think the only time where we like took a step back and thought about something like that was we were like, look, this could be the last job we ever have, but we need to take it seriously. So we need to quit our jobs and we need to like go for it. Again, like business plan, 5 years. We couldn't even imagine 5 years ahead of us. It was like day to day. And it still feels like it. Day to day. It feels now for the first time over the course of 10 years, it feels like we have now like a plan and starting to build a strategy for like a block of time, meaning like the next 2 to 3 years, the next 2 to 5 years. But that's never been the case up until very recently.
Right. Do you think that that there's something that's sort of relieving about having that? There clearly is, but there's also like the sort of urgency of being day to day can be so exciting as well as incredibly stressful. Do you think there's a bit of a like? Yes, we're growing, we're maturing, we need to have these like plans but there's a sort of loss there as well.
I mean, I only know it one way. You know what I mean? So like thinking back, if we would have sat there and tried to build a business plan and try and come up with like a strategy that made us feel safe, and like we didn't pay ourselves anything for over 3.5, 4 years. So if we were like, cool, we're going to do this, but we need a salary because we need to pay our rent, and you know, that kind of pre-planning, I don't think anything would have ever happened. It was more like we were super stoked on the idea. We were all really hungry, and we had the opportunity to sign a lease in Soho for our Crosby Street shop, and we kind of just said, fuck it, let's go for it, and signed it. And then we're given the keys, and that was kind of like, you have 2 weeks until you need to start paying rent. You know what I mean? Wow. Like, we didn't negotiate like, we need like three months free to get the store built out. Like, we're a lot smart. We know more now. Smarter is probably the wrong way of putting it.
Like
but
2 weeks, we got to be ahead quick.
Yeah. So like literally in 2 weeks, we built the space really helped define what the environment was going to be like. So we had this backyard and had this really interesting kind of environment on Crosby Street at the time, where there's no hotels, there's like very little retail, opening ceremonies at the end of the block. Yeah. And so it's like a really different sort of feeling of a street than it is today. But so that's when we were like, we need coffee's a really interesting thing. We need to take it seriously. Let's have a coffee bar up front, encourage people to go to the backyard and like hang out and chill. Really trying to focus on creating a retail environment that was, at the time, all these different stores felt kind of, when you'd walk in, you feel like you were in a museum where you're kind of bothering someone, like stepping in, just like to just open a spot where people are just come in and hang. You don't have to buy anything. You don't have to, you know what I mean, have a cup of coffee. Don't have a cup of coffee. It was just like we wanted to create an environment that like embodied everything that we were trying to accomplish and represent. And so it was just off to the races day one.
How was it telling your parents? Mom, Dad, I'm going to open a coffee shop / surf shop in New York City. In that time period, which wasn't...
In Soho.
You know?
I think...
I was like thinking about it. I'm like, how would I tell someone this if that concept hadn't fully existed? Because there wasn't really the idea of the coffee surf shop, really.
No, I think... I mean...
It might be
my parents are amazing and they were super supportive, but... Yeah. I'm pretty sure there was a moment where my dad was like, don't do it. You know, and among like, I remember I was working at Acne at the time and everyone there, you know, was like, yeah, okay, cool, good luck, you know, like that's rad. And now we can talk about it. They're like, no, we thought you were going down real quick with this whole idea. But you know, failure didn't really like play a part in anyone. Like myself personally, I came to the point where it's like, I'm really psyched. This sounds so rad. I'm willing to put up all my life savings and throw stuff on my credit card to see if we can make this work. And if the worst case scenario is I lose all that, like I'm cool with it right now. So, and I was 25. Yeah. My responsibilities, you know, was totally just, I just needed to eat food and pay my rent, and that's as far as it went. So I was able to we all figured out how to do that without taking any money from the business initially for the first 3.5 years, which was crazy.
Yeah. I mean, well, you're at that age where you're just gung ho and you're not thinking so much about failure. I imagine, you know, you're just like, just fucking do it.
I thought about it to the point where I was okay with it.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is the worst case scenario. Cool, let's go. Like no worries. You know what I mean?
Like I don't got a mortgage. I don't got kids.
Yeah, it's like it's okay. No worries. Like let's go for it. It's like,
do you mentor when folks come, like kids come up to you, or even people who have a nice job and they're like, I want to do a version of what you're doing. I'm willing to like this is my idea. I'm going to take this risk. And it's going to be in this environment, and the rent's going to be high, but I'm going to do it. Is there a part of you that's like, nah, stick with that accountant job? Because you nailed it. It's so many people try this and fail and lose a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I try and be like realistic at the risks and what we put ourselves through, and it was 2009. Like things have changed so much since 2009, so you have to kind of take that into account as you kind of approach this entrepreneur. Like, never crush the entrepreneurial spirit. I encourage it, but like know what you're getting yourself into. You know what I mean? Like, I've had people ask me, you know. Like at the time when we started Saturdays, for those 3 years that we didn't pay ourselves, literally when I would be the barista and make $30 a day of tips, that went in my pocket and paid for food and all that. And I was like psyched on that. And then I also DJ'd 5 nights a week. So my days were 7, 8 a.m. until 6, 7 p.m., take a 2 to 3 hour break, and then would DJ from like 10 to 4, 10 to 2, like 4 or 5 nights a week. And I was like, it was cool. I was like, cool. At the time, my salary before was, you know, paying like 35 grand, and I like had a lot of fun in New York, and I was like, all right, I just gotta, how many nights a week do I need a DJ for $250 a night to make that much money? And it was like, okay. And that's what I did. And so I try and tell anyone who asks me that question is like, well, it kind of depends on your situation, where you're at right now. But if this is what you really want to do, like, you got to be willing to take these risks, and like, this is what you have to do, you know? And if you're thinking you're going to raise a bunch of capital and start a company and pay yourselves a big salary, people do that these days and are able to, but at the same time, that's not what we did. And so I have like a different mindset, you know what I mean? Even if it's just like
bootstrap. You know, you guys you didn't take a whole lot of money. You just did it yourself, and it's kind of incredible. Did you ever take capital after you started? Have you taken any investments since?
We
hope you don't mind me asking.
No, not at all. I mean, we over the course of 10 years. So initially, no. Yeah. Like from, you know, for the first like 9+ years, no.
Damn.
It was like, luckily we were able to like take out little loans from like family and friends, you know, pay them back in 3 months and pay them back in 6 months. And that kind of is how we like went along for a long, long time. We met a really good business partner in Japan who basically, you know, he has a really rad history and it's an amazing company, and he had brought APC over from France, and we did a shop in Japan, and that went really well. And so that's kind of how that partnership like evolved. And then he was really stoked. He's like, I want to open a Saturdays in Tokyo, and it was as casual as this conversation we're having here. And we're like, cool, and we worked out a like really good, clean deal, and that's how we started. That's how we opened Tokyo, and that went really well and led to like a bigger relationship. And so then, you know, moving forward, like he's recently got involved on like a larger scale. So that's kind of where like we've been able to bring in like a little bit of capital. But I mean, in general, not like, no, still no. Every dollar that the company's made, in a manner of speaking, has either gone into support the future of the company. So in the first 3+ years, you know, any employee or team member that worked for us, they made money in a salary before we did, and went back into production or you know, product, or kind of all these different like facets of the company that you needed to do to be able to grow.
I'm impressed because like I work for a company and we've been growing it, and it's been bootstrap as well. But at a certain point, you're like, fuck, I need to get capital to get to that next level sometimes. Yeah. And to be able to do that without taking so much too much capital is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's really incredible.
Yeah.
It's not a story you hear all the time.
Well, I mean, we were really like we didn't have any money to start with, and it wasn't an option. So it was literally like 1 + 1 = 2. So we were just, you know, we don't have any money to pay ourselves anything. Like, not this year, not next year. But everyone was still so motivated and stoked. It actually never really was an issue between the three of us when we first started. It was like, this is what we got to do. You know what I mean? Like, I have to DJ at night. Josh had to bartend. Colin had side design gigs that he's able to do. And so that's like, everyone kind of handled it.
You mentioned, so you're celebrating your 10-year anniversary. That's awesome. And when I asked the question, what would you what would you say to the dreamy entrepreneur now in 2019? And you said, oh, well, it's different. It was different